Thank you for listening to the Golden Hour Drip podcast with me, Logan Lee Miller. Enjoy the show. Welcome back to another Golden Hour Drip podcast. I'm your host, Logan Lee Miller. Thank you so much for listening. If you haven't already, please rate, review, subscribe to the show. And if you're listening to audio and didn't realize it, we have a YouTube version as well. So this past week, I actually made a little bit of a blunder and I don't know what happened. I'm just going to say it was the lack of sleep from last weekend's retreat. I don't know what happened, but only half of the, or not half, it was way more than half. It was like the last 4 or 5 minutes were blank. And also, I don't know why it wasn't matched up. It was just horrible, honestly, but I did upload a second version, the full version. Luckily, I had still had the footage because over here I am always and constantly running out of storage, whether it's my phone storage, my SD cards, my computer, everything. So if it is not worth the flash drive or putting it on my terabyte, it's getting deleted. And that means every single week, once I uploaded it, I usually I delete the footage. And luckily I did not. But yeah, so sorry about that. But just a little bit of housekeeping. I would really appreciate it if you are listening on one platform or the other to go to the other one and to subscribe, to leave a comment on YouTube, all of the things. It literally just takes moments to do. It costs you nothing, but it means the world to me. So I appreciate it. If you are watching on YouTube today, I'm wearing this very bright turquoise. Is not really a color that I find myself attracted to, but a couple months ago I was in Cedar Rapids visiting my little sister. We went to a live podcast and I was thrift shopping. I was like, heck yeah, we are gonna thrift shop, and I found this dress. It's so cute. Okay, if you are a human and go shopping, you know that prices have skyrocketed. And if you go to little boutiques, sometimes it can be $60 for a shirt. That's crazy, especially because I'm trying to keep a very nice, tight budget, trying to save my money to invest in the things that I really, really want. And right now, clothing is on more of the lower tier. And that sucks for my shopping habits because I do love to go out and shop. I love looking at clothes. I love to add pieces to my closet, but I'm not necessarily allotting so much money towards that category right now. So I love to go thrift shopping, thrifting for items in my home, thrifting for clothing. I love the idea of giving something second life. And I've always gave my clothes to my siblings, to my cousins, all the things. I think that if we are able to reduce, reuse, and recycle, hello, 2000s babies. I feel like I heard that constantly as a kid. But I picked up this dress while thrifting. It still had the original tags on it. And it was originally $70 and I got it for $20. I was pretty happy with that. Maxi dresses can run on the higher tier. And so I got it home. I had gotten some other items that I was really, really happy about. I make it all the way back home to Missouri. I'm pulling all the stuff out of my bag. I'm cutting off the tags to throw it in the wash. And I see a secondary tag that says Mommy and Me. This was a Mommy and Me, I'm assuming matching set. So it was probably a long dress, or I'm sure they were both long, but I'm sure it was you could purchase, depending on how many kids you had, dresses for your daughters to wear. And I'm oh my gosh, I wonder if the mom who had thrifted it like originally thought, oh, I would love to match my daughters, and then like decide she was gonna wear like a different outfit, like because the tags were still on it, and I did not see any mommy and me, kid dresses at the thrift store, which doesn't mean anything. I mean, someone could have picked it up earlier, but I was like, dang, like why didn't she wear it? I don't know why, but as a kid, I was like an American Girl doll, like fiend. I loved dolls, Bratz, Barbies, Polly Pockets, American Girl dolls. Like, it did not matter. I had them all, and with multiple sisters, we were able to like play. My mom would separate them in totes, so she'd be like, okay, which week or which toy are you wanting to play with this week, because we had accessories and shoes and like all the things. And so she would store them neatly, and when we wanted to play with a specific one, say it's Bratz that week, she would get down the Bratz, we would all play Bratz. For American Girl dolls, like we mostly had like the American Girl dolls out constantly as we got older. I'm talking like 10, 11, like that's the time that we were playing with the American Girl dolls constantly. But when we were younger, like the Barbie dolls and the Bratz and the Polly Pockets, like their toys or their accessories, their shoes, everything was like a bit small. So she wanted to make sure that they weren't getting lost. We had pets in the home, so like a dog might chew up a leg. Actually, I had multiple Barbies and Bratz that got chewed up by a dog. So sad. But American Girl dolls have this thing where you could buy a matching dress for your American Girl doll. So you could match your doll essentially. And I just remember looking at the magazine. It was my favorite thing to just like list out like, okay, I want this and I want this. And like I would add up the totals. And this was usually like before Christmas. We got the magazines to our home. And I remember like writing down several matching outfits. My total, I remember like having to do like long addition, not long division, but essentially like my tally was so long. Like I would have like 20 different lines of what I wanted. And I remember adding it all up, and it was like $1,300. And I thought, that's good. Like I had taken a couple things off the list. I was like, this is a good budget. Like this is doable. And I just know my mother probably looked at that list and thought, this girl is absolutely crazy. Oh my gosh. I got all choked up, like thinking about my childhood. No, I'm just kidding. I'm literally choked on my saliva, but, sorry if that was disgusting. I completely understand. But anyways, I love to have my American Girl dolls. I dreamed of matching with them. And although I'm not pregnant, like taking the tag off this dress, I was like, oh my gosh, like how fun will that be? I'll probably get all boys and like live a very sad life. But hopefully one day my Polly Pockets, my Bratz, all the things can be put to good use, and I can potentially like match my child. That would be fun. But yeah, I was like really sad. What did this mother do? Like, why didn't she want to match her child? I think it's a pretty cute dress. I do like it. This is the first time that I've gotten to wear it. I am going to the Miss Missouri USA, there's like two different types or two different circuits for like pageants, and I'm not sure which circuit this is, but one of my very good friends is competing. She had like interviews yesterday. Today is like the first round, and I'm going with my friend Madison. I'm so excited, but this is what I've decided to wear. I know my self-confidence is probably going to plummet tonight. Like I get that. Like I'm going to be sitting in a seat looking at these beautiful women and just thinking, oh my gosh, like they're so stunning. Like, I wish I was beautiful, like, so I'm trying to wear something that like makes me feel good. And, there's definitely room in this, this dress. It was definitely made for, a developing woman. And that's what I feel like I am. So, I am really, really excited to see Kelsey compete on stage. I've never actually been to a pageant like that. My little sister did compete in the Iowa State Fair last year. And I've done like a couple like county fairs and like our town queen. Like I've definitely done like smaller things, but I've never witnessed or experienced something to like this caliber. And I'm really, really excited just to absorb it. I think I said a couple podcasts ago that I love it when people just excel in their craft, like whatever it is. I love to see a performance. I love to see people just so excited. And I know that Kelsey has worked so hard in the last year preparing for this moment. And I feel like it can kind of be compared to like a wedding or a graduation or anything really that you are working so hard for, right? You're spending countless minutes, hours thinking about this thing, preparing for this thing. And ultimately, like the contest, the pageant is 3 days. She will find out on Sunday. I don't know what's wrong with my voice. I'm so sorry. But she'll find out on Sunday if she has won or not. I'm recording this on Saturday, so I don't know. I hope she makes it tomorrow. I know she will. She's just so fabulous and she deserves to win. She's just such a kind-hearted individual. She has a podcast. It's called Radiant Positivity. So if you haven't heard of it, check it out. She's so kind, so sweet. But she is going to be competing. So Madison and I are going tonight. We will be watching essentially the first round. I wish I was able to watch on Sunday, but it's Father's Day and we have plans with Garrett's family to go up to his hometown and have a little cookout. Personally, I am preparing pies for Father's Day. It has been requested, and then I think my dad and little brother are gonna come over and we'll cook something on the grill in the afternoon and hang out. But I'm like, oh my gosh, like to know someone who's gonna be royalty, right? I have like full confidence in Kelsey, and one of the things that I'm like really excited to see is, to me, it's like the first night of The Bachelorette or The Bachelor. You know me, like I love reality TV. I don't know, it just makes me so happy. And I feel like the first night is the most fun because you get to see everyone. You get to see how hard that they've worked. You get to see all the personalities, and I'm sad that I'll miss like the second round tomorrow, but I do think it will be fun to see everyone's outfits, see everything that they have worked so hard for. And I don't know, it's kind of fun. I'm sure there's going to be like absolutely beautiful dresses, beautiful women. And I'm like, oh gosh, like better be putting on some mascara so I can, feel as confident. And I know like I'm joking about it. Like I feel like my self-esteem will, drop after tonight. But honestly, I know that's like shallow to say. In reality, like someone else's beauty doesn't take away from my own. So I have to remember that, especially when I'm comparing myself to like other individuals. I'm like, oh my gosh, she's beautiful. Oh my gosh, she's so stunning. Like just because someone else is beautiful doesn't mean it takes away from like your beauty or your qualities. I know that's a bit cheesy, but I have to remind myself like, you can have confidence, other girls can have confidence, and what you have to bring to the table is not going to take away from, what other people are bringing to the table. And speaking of like reality TV, I have been watching Perfect Match. I originally, like when it came out, I think it was like the first season in 2022. Maybe, yeah, I think so. I think it was filmed in 22 because I remember like one of the contestants saying like, it's 2022 now. Like if someone has a problem with that, like that's on you. I did binge the first season this week. It took me like 2 days, but I loved it. I loved it so much. And currently I'm on like season 2. Episode 2. And I know like there's so many spoilers right now, because they released I think they've released all the episodes, right? And like my first thought is when I see these beautiful people and I'm like, oh my gosh, they're gorgeous. And I think, oh my gosh, like she's my age. Like she's just so beautiful. What the heck? Like I feel like I'm not measuring up. I'm like, dang, like we need to be doing something, drinking our water, eating more vegetables. And I see, you know, them compete and their charisma, and you can't help but like compare and despair, my girl. You know, but I've been loving Perfect Match, and with season 2, Harry Jowsey is on, and I know like there's a lot of different opinions about Harry, but when I first listened to him on a Call Her Daddy podcast, I actually think that he is quite charming, right? But I'm really excited. Again, I've not watched the entire season. I'm just on episode 2, but he was having like on, I don't know if this is a spoiler, but he has a bit of a history and he's been in the public eye for a while, and a lot of people judge him for like the things that he has done. And a lot of people like talk in the house about like, oh, like he's such a player, like he switches sides so much. And he even said like, I have been one to not let my current girlfriend get in the way of finding my wife. So there could be like some fidelity issues there. But honestly, like I can't imagine having people essentially like form their opinions, true or not, about me, and then kind of like spoil any sort of like future relationship. And while I do think that we should be held accountable for the actions that we do take, I never want anybody to like feel less than a human, or even like just so beat down by other people's opinion. I just think that it's super, super sad. And he obviously, like, he is such a kind and caring guy that his personality, you know, can be so lovey, right? Like he wants to find love. He wants to find his perfect match. And I think that that's kind of equivalent of what has happened in the past. Like he wants to find someone, and he's, you know, tasted a lot of cherries. I don't know why I thought cherries, but you get what I'm saying. Like he to me, I'm excited to watch the rest of the season. I think he has a lot to offer. I think a lot of the other contestants on the show have a lot to offer. And one thing that I absolutely love is the introduction of like other shows. I did watch season 1 of The Circle, and I only watched that like a month ago. And one of the individuals on there, oh my gosh, I cannot, Joey won The Circle, and to see him like in a different setting is so fun. And I haven't watched, like, I think it's The Mole, Trust. I don't know. There was a couple of shows that I actually had never heard about. And I was like, oh my gosh, like that is so fun to have like these different shows. And like, as I was explaining this to Garrett of the show, because I don't know, I love to have on a bit of, you know, noise while I'm cooking or cleaning. I just find that it's like a break for my brain. And so I'll normally like have my iPad out and have something playing. He finished mowing the lawn. He came inside and he's like, "What are you watching?" I was like, "Oh, it's the perfect match. It's so fun." Because I was still in season 1. I was like, I remember Joey from The Circle. And then, you know how I love Selling Sunset? Well, there was Selling Tampa. Do you remember me watching that? Like 2 of the girls are from that, and they're on here. And he was like, "Oh, so it's like rejects." And I was like, "Garrett, that is so rude. No, they were not rejects. They just haven't found their perfect match. Not everyone is just as lucky as you are." But essentially, I do like that it's created for people to have like a second chance, a new environment. I've been loving it, honestly. I think it's such a fun show. I can't wait to get to the end of it, but I know since there's like not a season 3 right after it, that I'm going to need to like cherish it and love it and not like rush through it so quickly. But it has been fun. And also like they're in beautiful gowns and like swimsuits and so cute. And I love reality TV. I think watching individuals interact with one another, how the dynamics play out. And like, I don't know, there's a couple matches that I did not think that would work out, and like they are driving, and it's just, I think it's fun. And I think that having a interest in reality TV, it's not like hurting anyone. Like, who is it hurting? It's not hurting anyone at all for me to love something so much, right? But that's been like my current favorite this past week, is just watching The Perfect Match. Let's get into my peak and my pit of the week. My peak of the week over my lunch break, and I was heavily influenced by my little sister Lily. She posted a TikTok. She is home for the summer. She's living with our parents, right? Like our parents. And so she is still at our like childhood home. I say childhood. It was like, middle school through high school. And since we moved around so much as a kid, like I definitely consider it like a childhood home, or adolescent home. I don't know quite what to call it, but for me, it's what I love. It's Sumner, Iowa, right? And so, she's back on our, family's property, and we have like a pond and we have fruit trees, and she picked mulberries, and she posted this cute little TikTok. She's like, make breakfast with me. She walked down to our mulberry tree. She picked some mulberries and she made like a chia seed pudding. Oh my gosh, it was yogurt, whatever. But she like made this really cute TikTok, and I was like, I forgot. It's like mulberry season. And it was a good reminder for me, because on where I live, a whole state away, right? Like Iowa to Missouri, I actually have a mulberry tree. And so it's not in my yard. It's actually in our pasture right next to our yard, and it hangs over the fence to the like blacktop road that I live on. So I could essentially go into our pasture and like pick from the other side. But for me, I don't want to do that. I'm so lazy. Like then I would have to walk all the way up to the gate. And I was like, you know what? I can just pick on the other side of the fence. It's real easy, branches, and the tree has been there for like quite a few years. Like it's getting pretty thick in comparison to the mulberry tree in my yard that I saved this year. It was like in some brush, and we're clearing up some of the space. We have like this big walnut tree, and then like a bunch of saplings like all around. We had like a couple locust trees, which locusts have thorns on them. So I was like, Garrett, we got to clear those out. They're right next to my garden, and I really want to have like a little hideaway over there. Whether it's like tables and chairs or, playhouses. Can you tell like I'm kind of on the baby fever? I'm so sorry. Anyways, I want to clear that out for like future use. Like it's going to take a while to pick up all the sticks and to clear out like the stumps, even though like the trees there, they're only like an inch or two in diameter. Some are like a bit thicker than that, but ultimately there's this mulberry tree. I was like, we're gonna save that. Hopefully it'll grow now that we've cut everything out. The only problem, it is very, very close to the walnut tree, so I hope that it gets enough nutrients to grow and develop into like a really beautiful tree. But I walked down to the mulberry tree down the road. It took me like 2-3 minutes to get to it. I get there. I bring my little basket. Garrett's grandma, oh my goodness, his grandma Sarah got me this like wooden basket. It's so cute, honestly. She had gifted it to me. I think she put like a tea towel and like it was essentially like the container, like the basket, instead of using like a like gift bag. She gifted me this little wooden basket, and it's so cute. But usually I take it down to like the garden to pick our tomatoes or cucumbers, although like my tomatoes are doing horrible this year. Like they are doing absolutely horrible. I got it from like a different manufacturer or different nursery, and they've just like, they've not survived. They've not done well. 3 of them died. the other 3 are like struggling to hold on. And then my cucumbers, though, they're doing pretty good. I saved the seeds from last year, and they're drought resistant because last year I did not water them as much as I should have. But anyways, that's besides the point. I have this cute little basket, and I walked down. I was like, I'm going to pick some mulberries, and it was over my lunch break. So it's like 12 o'clock. The sun is high. It is hot. Mulberries, if you don't know what it is, they're like these small little berries. They are kind of hard to pick, and you need a lot of them to do anything with them. So I'm picking. Lily's TikTok was so cute. She's like, she had like filled a little mason jar. She's like, this took me about 15 minutes. I had the intention to make jam. So I'm like, this is going to take me it's going to take me my entire lunch break. So I'm picking the mulberries from the tree. I'm like, oh, this is great. This is grand. This is so much fun. I hate picking mulberries. I really do. Like, they are like a little bit of a tender berry. So my fingers are stained purple. I am in the ditch of the road. So like the grass leaves are like pressing against my legs. And I'm like, this is fine. This is fun. Like, I'm trying to have a good time. It's a good time. Like, I was being grateful in the moment. I was like, okay, like, this is kind of the dream. Even though it sucks, like mulberry picking sucks. It's like the worst thing to pick. I would rather be kneeling to pick strawberries. I would rather be picking blackberries. Like, there's so many other things that I would rather pick than a mulberry. But here I am. I'm picking my mulberries. I'm having a good time, or I'm convincing myself, because ultimately a couple years ago, I wouldn't have had the opportunity to do this. I would have had to wait for a weekend, or get up really early in the morning to have any sort of life, around my job. And I'm just so grateful for the lifestyle that I have and the ability to do this. So I was feeling really, really grateful, honestly, even to pick something so horrible like a mulberry. I'm picking the mulberries. And one thing about me, I live in a small little town. So everybody knows everybody, essentially. And on one hand, it can be really good. But when I'm doing things that are kind of embarrassing, like here I am just picking mulberries on the side of the road, people could think, like, oh, what is she doing? Right. Or if I go for a run down the road, it can be embarrassing because like you're putting in effort. Right. So when people like slow down to talk, I'm like, oh, don't look at me. Like, I don't, especially if I am going for a walk or a run. I'm like, gosh, I'm sweating. Like, please don't look at me. Please don't judge me. And I was picking mulberries. And I was like, oh gosh. And I feel this car. I always try not to make eye contact with vehicles. And during this time, literally everybody was out. I felt like there was 6 or 7 cars that like spud past, and I was like, gosh, like people need to slow down, right? And then someone did slow down. Someone slowed down to a stop. And I was like, who could this be, right? I always get nervous, 1, because I'm a woman, 2, because I don't know who it's going to be and how long I'm going to be chatting, right? Like I'm on my lunch break. I'm trying to like finish up so I can go back inside. It's warm, it's hot, and guess who it is? It's my sweet grandmother, my Nana Joe. And she stops and she's like, hey, I saw you picking. And she doesn't like live in this area. She actually lives like in the town over. And she's like, hey, how's it going? And she was chatting with me. And she's like, it's crazy because I live very close to where my mom grew up and where my dad grew up. And essentially, like, my house is just past the house that my mom lived in during middle school and high school. And essentially, like, that's the house that my dad, like, knocked on the door to sell FFA fruit. And she was visiting her ex-husband, essentially. They're very good friends now, and she's like, it's so crazy, like I see you picking, and there used to be a mulberry tree like next to his home. He's like, I see you and you're picking, and I remember like picking mulberries like close to our house, and it was just like this kind of full circle moment of, we think that our lives are so individual, right? Like, I'm living my life and there's so many things that I'm like thinking about that someone has done before me, like in my family. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, like, in some way. Like I'm following in the footsteps of who came before me, right? Like the strong women who led their lives before me. And as I'm picking these mulberries, and my Nana Jo is talking to me, and she's like, it's just, I remember when I did that. And of course, like she said goodbye. She said that she loved me, and she drove on, but it really put it all in perspective. Hey, I hope that you're enjoying today's podcast episode. Just a quick interruption to let you know that the Golden Hour Drip podcast has a monthly newsletter. You'll find podcast updates, upcoming events and information, and bonus content. If you haven't already, click the link in the show notes and join today. Now, back to the show. And another thing that I feel like I am essentially they say like history repeats itself. I cut off my hair, and I was like showing my dad some photos, and he's like, "Oh, your mom went," and he like went to go scroll or zoom into the photo. The sun was shining, like we were outside. I was like, "What do you mean? That's me." And so I know that history repeating itself is like a very common like term, but to just like sit with it and think, oh my gosh, like I do things and I think that it's like my life, right? But essentially like I am who I am because of who made me, right? Like the people in my life, how they've influenced me and like raised me, essentially, like my work ethic and my generosity and how I connect people. Like I see the traits that people whom I love also have. And so it was a really cool, just like peak of my week to hang out with her. And then later that afternoon, she stopped by and she's like, "Hey, I just got done at my friend's house." She had visited one of her girlfriends, and she's like, "Just thought I'd stop by while you were inside and could actually chat." And I had made some dough earlier that afternoon, and so my bread was baking, and we waited for it to bake. And then I brought out my strawberry jam and my peach jam from last year. And we just had some bread and some butter with my jam and the blackberry. Oh my gosh. The not even gooseberry, mulberry. I don't know why that was so hard. But the mulberry jam that I had made, I spent all this time. I literally spent 30 minutes picking mulberries, and I ended up being able to fill 3 little like quarter pints. They're such small jars. They're literally like 3 inches tall. They're so small, but I was able to do like 3 little baby mini jars, and I was like, you know what? Can't wait to open those. But with mulberries, and because they are like in our yard and so close, and I don't have to pay for them, essentially, I can go out again when the other ones ripen up and make some more mulberry jam. But it was something that I had never made before. Like I have definitely eaten a bunch of mulberries, but because they are so hard to pick and it takes a lot of them to make any jam, I hadn't ever made jam, and it definitely was sweet. I didn't have enough lemon juice in my house. Well, I didn't have any lemon juice. I had lime juice, but no lemon juice. So I think it would have been better with some acidity in it, but it is a really nice sweet jam. I can't wait to make a charcuterie board with it. Oh my gosh, so I finished up at the studio. I taught a yoga class, and I knew with Father's Day on Sunday that I was going to need to bake a couple pies, and Garrett requested an apple pie and my little brother requested a blueberry pie. So I'm like, all right, I got to pick up some more blueberries, and I stopped at the store and I noticed that the plums were on sale. Plum jam is something that I've never made before. I love plums, but it's not something that I like go for or pick often. Like it's more of an expensive fruit in comparison to like apples or oranges. It's kind of like a novelty item, and once they're in season, then they like go bad quick, right? And they were $2 off. They were $1.99 per pound. I'm like, all right, how many pounds do I need to make some jam with this? And I'm thinking maybe like 5 pounds. I'm like filling my bag and I'm like weighing the bag with my hand. I'm like, all right, does this feel like 5 pounds yet? I don't know. And I thought to myself, you know what? It is so embarrassing to use a scale at a grocery store. I don't know why, but I'm like, man, if they see me using a scale, they're going to think I can't afford this. They're going to think I'm stealing, like popping things in my bag. I don't know. Honestly, like it's just overthinking. But I was like, okay, I'm going to like put this on the scale real quick and see how many I got. I had like 5.4 pounds. I was like, perfect. That's like an estimate of like $10 for this little bag of plums. I was like, this is going to work great. I'm going to be able to make plum jam Sunday, hopefully. Hopefully I have enough time after all the festivities, maybe Monday afternoon. Nope, I'll be teaching a class. Got to get it done Sunday morning. So I have the intention, I'm going to make some plum jam, and I pick up my blueberries and I make it around. I also like these Gens. They're ginger candy. They're like a soft, chewy candy. I picked up a package of those. They're so addicting. They're so good. I've already had 5 today. I love them. I love them so much. Like the spicy ginger. You can put them in like, a cup of hot water and have like a little ginger tea. I don't know. They are addicting. I love them so much. This time I tried a different variety, which was a peanut variety. It tastes like Thai food. Like it's just so good. I loved it a million times out of a million. Picked up a couple of different items and I make it to the checkout line and I think to myself, oh gosh, like I want a person. I don't want to use self-checkout. It's a McKeever's Market. It's a really cute setup. And I was like, all right, I'm going, there's a nice boy. And I was like, this is great. He looks bored out of his mind. I'm about to wreck his day. So I like start loading my items up. And I don't know what inside my body, intuition, if you will, woman's intuition, but I'm like, I know how much it was because I weighed it for the first time ever. I normally don't use the scale, but I look over and it says apricot. No. It says apricots. It was like $5.99 per pound. And essentially what I thought was going to be $10 was now $37. And I was like, oh, hey, those are plums, not apricots. And he was like, oh, what? And he's like looking at the bag and he's a young kid. Like he looks 18, 19, or younger. Honestly, I don't know. He was young. Like he was a kid and he's like, looking at him, he's like, oh, I just like scanned it. One of those damn plums had an apricot sticker and the apricots were right next to the plums, but those are $5.99 per pound. And so I was like, oh gosh, like I want to make plum jam because it's fun, because I don't have anything to do. No, I have things to do, but like jamming is just like, it's a passion I have. Like it's so fun and I want to challenge myself and I want to do it. And I was like, hey, like I promise you those are plums. Like I am like agriculturist. I know my plums. Apricots are peach colored. Like they're like a nectarine color. They're orangey and yellow, and these are like dark purple. It's like, hey buddy, like those are plums. Like I promise you can take them all out. They're all plums. Someone accidentally put the wrong staple or sticker on it. I was laughing. Okay, I was like having a good time. I was like, oh, hold up, buddy. Like, you know, I mistakes happen, right? And I hate when people make anybody feel like less than. I'm not gonna like berate this individual, right? It's not a big deal. But I just like I was thinking, oh my gosh, like did I read the side wrong? Like I'm about to put all these plums back if they're gonna cost me like, it was like $37, or no, that was my total. My total of all the groceries that I got was like $37 with these apricots. Apricots. They were plums. I'm telling you, they were plums. I know they're plums. But it would have been double. Like with the mismarked price, it was going to be double. And it was like, whoa, like this is just a cute little fun hobby. Okay. I'm not here to pay like a premium price for fruit. My like favorite thing is when like the fruit is affordable and I'm able to do it because it's fun and I like it and I can gift it to people that I love. And, I find so much joy in canning. And it was fine. Like, he was like, you're right. I'm wrong. I'm an idiot. And I was like, you know what? It's not a big deal. But I seriously, I saw my paycheck flash before my eyes. No, just funny. But like at the beginning of this episode, like budgeting is so important, and just like putting things into each bucket. Ramit Sethi, I loved his book. But it's like, have an intention for each dollar. And so I have an intention. Okay. And this like $10 is like fun money, you know, making jam is just for fun. But I was like, oh my gosh. So I'll be making plum jam this week, probably Sunday morning. I don't know when I'm going to have time. Those plums were like ripe to perfection. $2 off per pound. I mean, you cannot beat that. I love a good deal, love a good discount. Because my tomatoes are doing so poorly though, like they're literally doing such shit. Like they're horrible. I think that I'm going to go to the farmer's market and actually like buy produce to can. Normally I don't do this. Like the only time that I go to like can something is the orchard. Like I'm canning strawberries, I'm canning peaches or whatever. But I haven't like bought mass quantities to can, and that way I've always just grown it. But since my tomatoes are just like so pitiful, I'm thinking next weekend. Like next weekend will be a good time. I don't have anything going on. The following weekend, like I'm be busy. It'll be crazy. Then it's the 4th of July. Oh my gosh, I'm already wishing away like my June. I gotta stop. I gotta be present. Gotta be in the moment. This past week, essentially, I don't know, like my entire life, I'm really intentional on my mornings. I think it's so important to have a routine, so important to do the things that fill you up and make you happy. And I know because in the past, I've had to get up early, like 6 o'clock, leave my house by like 6:37, make it to work on time, like drive 45 minutes to an hour to, you know, get to my job. And then I'm constantly pouring into other people. I'm having, you know, a work day, right? Like work is work, and not all the jobs are going to fill you up in the way that you need. And I just remember like being so sad that I didn't get any time for myself. And I essentially was like pouring from an empty cup. I had nothing to give. It was just quite dreadful, right? And I'm so intentional with my mornings. I always try to start out with a cup of coffee and sitting on our back patio, especially because we have new patio furniture. I cannot shut up about it. I love it. It might just be a couple 2x4s screwed together, but they are my favorite thing. And normally the dogs get to hang out with me as long as they're not too naughty. Sometimes like animal will come into the yard and then they'll go off and chase it. But as I'm like enjoying my coffee, I was thinking about like dogs, right? Like they, especially mine, they kind of like run on their own schedule timeline, right? Like especially when they're needing to go potty. So for us, we have like an open backyard. They don't go too far, and essentially like the pasture behind us is like we own it. So there's not really anywhere that they could go that they would get in trouble, essentially. But I do like having them close by. I want to be able to watch them at all times. And of course, I don't want them to get in the road. But with that, like they go off leash. Like we don't have a fence. We don't have anything. We just like open the back door, and we always try to like keep eyes on them, because they do get curious, because they do like get on a scent and on a trail of like a squirrel or, you know, any sort of animal, right? Like we live in the country. And I was just thinking about how when they need to, you know, go potty, there's been so many nights and mornings where I've been like trying to rush the dog. I'm like, all right, hurry up. Like, come on, let's get on with it. Like, can you focus? Can you like stop smelling each branch? Stop smelling each blade of grass. Like, just get it over with and get it done with. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, like, a dog just approaches everything with such curiosity. They are smelling deeply, right? Like they are essentially like stop and smell the roses. And I know that's really good for a dog's mind to smell so deeply. And they say like 10 minutes of smelling is equivalent to like an hour walk or something like that. Don't quote me. I'm not sure on the actual specifics of the measurements, but I do know it's really good for their brain. And essentially it does tire them out as much as like a walk would. And so when you do take your dog on a walk, or you are letting them explore, to let them stop at every tree and stop at every rock, and to have that like patience to let them do that is hard, because we're on our own timeline and we want things to happen like a specific way. And I am just like watching them sniff around, and I don't really have anywhere to go like on a weekend, or even in the morning. Like I work from home, so I don't have to rush off. And essentially, like if I want to keep the door open, as I have many times, and start working at my kitchen table, I know that they'll come in when they're ready. But I was thinking about my life and the different points of where I've been and what I like, and thinking, oh my gosh, like there's definitely been seasons where I felt so uncomfortable in the waiting, or I thought, oh my gosh, like next time or next year, this or that. And I was just thinking, oh my gosh, like a dog is just so fully in the moment, and they appreciate each waiting period, right? Like when I leave, right? Like leaving the house, I, kiss my doggies goodbye and I head out. And when like Garrett leaves or I leave, like our dogs are in the moment. Like, of course they probably miss us, but they're laying down, they're playing with their balls, they're not thinking about it. Like when I'm with the dogs, I know that they're not like waiting at the door for Garrett to come home, and vice versa. Like they're not waiting by the door, waiting for, oh, like when this happens, like then I can live my life. Then I can like play with my ball. No, like the dogs are like playing and doing what they want while we're gone. Like they are so fully in the moment. And I know it's because like they're an animal and they don't think about things like a person does. And luckily, like my dogs are well taken care of, right? Like they're not thinking about their next meal. They're not thinking about finding shelter. Like they're completely safe and taken care of. And they're so in the moment. And I just think, oh my gosh, like there's been so many times where I'm waiting for Garrett to come home, right? Like if Garrett is gone on a trip, I'm like, oh my gosh, like when will he get back? Like, am I going to be able to sleep tonight? Like, I wish I had him around me, or I wish this or whatever. And the dogs don't do that. They just hang out. They appreciate my company. But they're so curious with everything as well. And when they find a scent or a trail, when a squirrel, one time, I saw like a skunk trail right next to our house, and I know it was a skunk trail because I watched the skunk go on it like 3 days before. And while I was walking, Rooster, no, it was Rowdy. Yeah. We were walking and I knew the trail, and like the grass was like matted down, and it had gone on this trail multiple times. There was like a water runway. So I know that it had like gone to drink water or go fishing or like whatever animals do. And she immediately picked up the scent. She like puts her nose and she's like trying to follow this trail. Of course, like that's now going into someone else's pasture. I don't want her to like go down. So I'm like, oh, come on, girl. Like we got to go. But when a dog is on a trail, when they find something good, when they find that happiness, or like a squirrel, we have lots of squirrels, honestly, when they find that like track, they're like on it, like a bloodhound almost. My dogs are blue heelers. So they're often like, they're hardwired to chase. They're hardwired to, use their nose and smell the cattle and like run and chase and do all the things. And I was just thinking, oh my gosh, like, how many times have I not pursued something, even though I felt passion towards it, even though I was like, yes, drawn to it. And I was like, this is going to be amazing. And I was too scared, or I was too stuck to that, like pursue that trail. It's like, oh, can't do that. Got to stick with the status quo. Got to continue on the trail that I'm on. But honestly, like I just took such inspiration for them, like running around, chasing what smells good, and to stop and just be like so present in the moment. And there's so many times, literally so many times I'm like counting up where I was like, oh, like I can't wait until I can do this. I can't wait until I'm set up for that. And honestly, like there's so much sweetness in the presence. And I think sometimes we miss out on it. Like we don't fully appreciate what we have. And as I was, scrolling my life away on TikTok, because I love it so much, I saw this post and it was like, we just got back home from, a meal, and we are just hanging out because we're in the in between of getting married and having babies, or like essentially like they were married, but they weren't having babies, or like in between. I was like, man, like that is so true. Like I always think about my sisters or people in my life who are starting to have babies or have multiple children. And I think, oh my gosh, like, that'll be so fun one day, right? Like, oh, one day. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like how fun is it to just be like in the moment right now, and to be this in between, the sweetness. Like I won't ever get this between Garrett and I ever again. Like if that like becomes our path, like then there's going to be someone else, right? Like it's going to change the dynamic. Like creating a life is like that. It's going to like change everything. And so I was like, man, like how cool to just be in the moment, and to find like we'll be married 4 years this fall, which is crazy to think about. Absolutely crazy. And I was just like, man, like this might be an in-between moment, but it is like so special, and like I won't ever be able to get this back. And I remember when we first started dating, I was just thinking, oh my gosh, like I feel like kind of fraudulent. Like people are like, oh, how long have you been together? And I'm like 4 months, even though it feels like way longer than that. And then we finally like hit the 1 year, and then the 2 years. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, like we've been together for so many summers now, and it's so fun. And I don't know. I was like, to be more present is definitely like one of my prerogatives. Like I really struggled with it in the past of being present. And I think 2020 definitely did a number on us, but I like struggle to think back during that time and to see if like, was I happy? Was I sad? Like, I feel like I kind of blacked out during those years. And I know other people feel that way as well, like with the stress and the limbo and everything. But I'm like, man, like this is definitely a pivotal point. And also I was thinking about like how many years it's been since I've been out of high school. I forget what I saw. I think it was like one of the reunion videos again on TikTok, but it was like, it's always like the flashback. They show like a photo of the yearbook, and then they show like the person. It's like guns in my head and they won't go, or whatever song that is. And I'm like, dang, like they're like 10-year reunion, and that's 2014, y'all. Like I was a sophomore in 2014, and I was thinking, oh my gosh, like I graduated in 2016. So 2026, baby, that would be 10 years. And I was just thinking about the mindset and where I was at that age. And I seriously wish I had more of my journals as a kid in comparison to like now as an adult. But just to like look back on those things, and I know that I was like embarrassed, and I like threw away so many journals, because once you write about something or you have a passion, like a puppy love, and you're like, oh my gosh, I love them so much, and then it can be like quite embarrassing to look back on that. But still, there's like so much personal growth to be had, and just to like be able to look back. But I'm like, all right, we're going to be in the moment. We are going to be so grateful for all the people who have come before us, right? Like I'm grateful for my mom. I'm grateful for my Nana Joe. I'm grateful for my Grammy, who's no longer here with us. And I just think about all of the strength that they had and what they went through essentially like in their life, and it can go both ways for like my dad, right, and my stepdad, and like thinking about everything that they've gone through, and just like pouring into me essentially. I've been in like kind of a very retrospective emotional state, and I'm not sure really what's triggering it, to be honest. maybe it's because it's summer and I don't want to waste my summer. And then I just like think back to like summers past and all the good memories and like starting new traditions. And honestly, I'm probably feeling so sappy because our float trip is in 2 weeks. Oh my gosh, I'm like starting to kind of tear up, guys. Like, the float trip is so special. It's something that my mom has coordinated for so many years, and I am so grateful for each one of the float trips. But like my cousin Ian loved the float trips, and I guess because I talked with my Nana Joe when she came home and just like talking about Ian, and like Ian he's like 2 years older than me, but it's been, I think, 3 years now since he has like been gone. And I just think, oh my gosh, like he had so much life to live. And now essentially like I'm at the age that he was. And I think about the float trip and I think about all my family members and how much I love them. And like, it is truly like, it's hard to think about like one day and you don't know when it will be, but like things can dramatically change. And to just be so grateful for the people now and where they're at, and to tell them that you love them and to give them a hug. And I didn't mean for this to take like such a sad turn, but I realized that some of the time that I've been spending, I'm like, oh gosh, like I felt kind of sluggish. And I know like coming off my period, I always feel that way. But man, like, am I wasting some time here? Like, how can I be using my time more efficiently? How can I be enjoying life to the fullest? How can I be connecting with people that I love and spending as much time as possible? Like this last Friday night, I don't normally go out on a Friday night. I like to stay in. I like to be chill. And I do relish like a Friday night in, but I had a Golden Gal Network event. We went to a comedy show. It was so much fun. And as I'm like hanging out with the girls, I had dressed up. I found this skirt from Marshall's. It's a Zara skirt, but it was like heavily discounted. It was $13. It was actually a dress, but I pushed it down to like be more of like a midi skirt instead of like a mini dress. And then I like tied it with a denim top, and I was like, man, like this is just a comedy show, and I know that like nobody will see me essentially, like it's dark, and it's just like a close group of girls, but you know what, like I deserve it. I deserve to like wear this happy thing that makes me happy and makes me feel like a woman, you know, makes me feel really good about myself to come to this event. And I was just thinking, oh my gosh, like how many Friday nights have I just like stayed in to watch a show? And they always say this, they say like the second half of your 20s, you like want to go out, you want to like, you have this revitalization of like a second wind of like going out and hanging out. And I was like, man, like definitely 22 to like 25, I kind of like wanted to stay in, and not saying because I'm not a huge party girl, but I do love to socialize. I love to have fun. I love to go out. And I'm like, man, like how fun is this to like go out on a Friday night with some girls? And normally like I do events on Saturday, but since I'm teaching yoga, like I can't essentially like do that. Like I teach Saturday at 11, so that's kind of like the middle of the day. I definitely could do a breakfast, but at the end I'm like, oh gosh, like I'm tired, I want to go home. I think that there needs to be a balance of when you're pouring into yourself, you know, having those ease of mornings of drinking coffee with your little doggos running around. Maybe you don't have dogs. Maybe you're a cat person. I don't know. I love cats too, but maybe, you know, you keep that balance of I'm going to stay in, I'm going to drink coffee, I'm going to fill myself up, I'm going to journal, I'm going to be quiet. Literally today on the way to the studio, normally I have music, I have a podcast. I spent the hour there and the hour back not listening to any music. I sat in silence and I just let my brain roam and think and like imagine. I just let my brain run wild. It was so much fun. But often like we're just like consuming so much that we forget what we want. And so it's like, you know what? I'm going to be present today. I'm going to be like, so where my feet are. That doesn't mean that I'm not also still going to watch reality TV. That doesn't mean that I'm not going to, have fun and stay in or go out or any of the things, but I'm going to be so conscious and choosing what I want to do. And I hope that you do the same. I hope that you are so present this week, that you're so grateful for the people in your life, that you send them a text right now or give them a call and say, hey, like, I love you from the bottom of my heart. Check in on those people. And thank you so much for listening to the podcast this week. I truly appreciate it. If you wouldn't mind to like, subscribe, review, all of the things, it means more to me than you would ever know. And yeah, that's it for this week. I hope to see you in the next one. Bye.